Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, my wife Priya here, want to know if I'll say anything out of the order, keeping a watchful eye. Let me say that in the current situation, there are a lot of noise everywhere because of, about the threat of Change Guyana making a serious inroads, in the political landscape here, dominated by two ethnic parties. And beyond that noise, and as Nigel said, the dust, hopefully it's settled by now, because nothing could change the fact that Nigel has been a strong pillar of this party. He and I started it. Nigel is the chairman. Like myself, he's not going anywhere. He's here to influence policies, to debate, to do research, to implement policies that are in the interest of our country. And unlike our competitors, who have shown repeatedly over time that their interest is different from ours, the sincerity of our mission to lead Guyana into rapid development and elevation of our standard of living, to put us among the league of progressive nations. Unlike those people, unlike us, many of them are there for just what they can get. The motivation, I've seen some endorsements, and I know the characters, and their motivations are just because they are not doing well. Certain parties are being looked at as once you're a member, you could get significant benefits at a compromise to the interests of Guyanese. So that's the challenge we have, and that's our mission. With our honesty, integrity, our vision for the future, the fact that Nigel is still here, Change Guyana is blazing forward. We have just received yesterday, before all other parties, we received our authorization to proceed as a contender in the presidential elections coming March 2020. We were among the first parties to receive that. I must tell you also, some of the parties they were trying to steal our candidates. So we have a lot going for us. The case of Nigel brings to the fore a very important mission of ours, the mission of healthcare. As you know, repeatedly in the local media, there have been widespread incidents of malpractices, of lack of health care, of babies dying at public hospital, lack of equipment, lack of trained medical technicians. And that's the history of Guyana. And anywhere we turn, we see degradation in life. We see that our citizenship, our feeling of pride as a citizen of Guyana is at stake because we can't rely on basic health care in our country. We cannot rely on having a good life here, so we have to seek one foot outside because of the opportunities that are denied us because of our failure to create wealth, to create economic development. And one of the main reasons for not being able, not that our country is not rich, our country is among the richest in this region. Gold, bauxite, diamond, vast agricultural landscape. But the number one reason I would say, which reflects failure of leadership, is the level of corruption since independence. The continuous marginalization and weakening of the public sector, the civil service, to ensure that proper accountability is realized, the political domination of the civil service, as in the case with the police and the central bank and the judiciary. These are all failure of leadership, but it has one common objective: to ensure that the political elite has control over the resources of the state. Those resources that they take from the pockets of ordinary people by levying high extortionary level of taxation that transfer wealth from even poor people to the state coffers, which are then squandered and mismanaged and stolen at the highest level. So we have a situation now of corruption from top to bottom. It's endemic in Guyanese society. It's being propelled by the party politics of the division, because ethnic voting brings corruption. Ethnic voting brings corruption because the PPP will say, no matter what, Indo-Guyanese will vote for us. It brings corruption because no matter what, APNU will feel that Afro-Guyanese will vote for them. So they don't care about honesty. They don't care about systems. They don't care about rules and accountability. Whatever they want to do to enrich themselves, that's the culture of politics in Guyana. And we are here to change that. As I word it, we are here to drain the swamp of corruption. Now, I'll outline some of the incidents, the cases of corruption, just to illustrate that Guyana have been kept poor because of corrupt practices and corrupt leaders. The tale of corruption in public office in Guyana needs no elaboration. It is a well-known fact that corruption has robbed us of billions of US dollars that would have otherwise gone towards development projects. After 28 years of PNC rule, 23 years of PPP, and 4.5 years of APNU in office, corruption is endemic in the two main political parties' culture. The consequence: our country remains the poorest in the region. Our people migrate to seek opportunities denied them at home. Our healthcare, infrastructure, income levels, and quality of life are shamefully the poorest in the region. Guyana is rated 93 out of 180 countries on the International Corruption Perception Index, and 134 out of 190 countries on the ease of doing business, the poorest showing in this region. High taxes, restrictive regulations, and mismanagement at all levels retard private sector investments, resulting in high levels of unemployment. A recently leaked report from the Auditor General, which the government was trying to conceal, outlined a series of cases of poor accountability of state resources by the current administration. Among these were 222 checks totaling $732 million as of January 1, 2019, held in breach of the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act. 63 million in overpayments on contracts by the Ministry of Infrastructure alone. Widespread duty-free concessions on luxury vehicles. Fiscal concessions to oil and gas companies totaled 43.42% of government revenue, amounted to $104 billion. It also raised concern on the failure to account for an excess of $1 billion spent on the Durban Park project. I'll outline a few of the bigger cases under both PPP and APNU administration. The corrupt deals under the Jagdeo PPP administration. Duty-free concessions on luxury vehicles to friends, while making such vehicles unaffordable to the masses by extortionary level of taxes. Transfer of state assets at fraction of their market value to friends under opaque deals. Forestry concessions to foreign companies who pay under the table, but denying locals similar concession. Single sourcing of pharmaceutical from connective persons at sometimes more than 3 times the market price, transferring billions of taxpayers' dollars away from development projects and into the pockets of politicians. Overpriced contracts to connected persons, delivering, in many cases, substandard work without any warranty or retention to cover rectification works. We in Guyana have seen too many cases of roads built that doesn't last a rainy season. Misuse of the lotto funds as a slush fund by both PPP and APNU administrations. Lease of our bauxite reserves at Kokwani without a cent in royalty, and billions of dollars in tax concessions to foreign oligarchs. Misuse, theft, and failure to account for the Petro-Caribbean funds for rice for oil funds, which were to be used for rice farmers and development projects. Sale of GT&T shares to unknown Chinese entity, and transferring those shares with $5 million US outstanding. Unto this day, we can't be told where the $5 million US went. Maybe it's the kickback part. Transfer of Sonata Textiles property at a fraction of its value to a connected person, after billions of taxpayers' money was spent on its refurbishment. This was followed by billions in duty-free concessions and procurement of pharmaceuticals, undersold sourcing from the same connected person to enable him to finance that acquisition. Could it get worse than that? The Borbis Bridge contract, under which NIS public funds of more than $2.5 billion was spent, and a fraction of that spent by friends of the former president. But still, the friends ended up owning more than 50% of the bridge company, putting only 10% of the costs. Could it get worse? The same scheme was planned for the Marriott Hotel project, costing $55 million US of public funds, which would have allowed a friend of the former president to own 2/3 of the company by paying just $8 million. The Skeldon Sugar Factory, now a white elephant, spending $200 million US, that bankrupt Gaisuku and put thousands of workers and their families on the breadline. Now they're saying they're going to reopen estates. You can't run current estates, you're going to reopen neglected estates. $30 million US of poor NIS contributors literally given to CLECO, a company controlled by a friend of the former president. Management of state corporations that cost taxpayers close to $100 billion over the past 10 years. Mismanagement at the highest level, $500 million US. Amalia Falls Road project, on which $18 million was advanced on the signing of the contract to a friend of the former president, but no road was built. Misuse of a housing fund by a current presidential candidate who promised 50,000 house lots. that sold undeveloped house lots to the average person, but hundreds of acres to party-connected friends. Imagine parking hundreds of families at Diamond with poor infrastructure while parceling off hundreds of acres to friends of the previous administration. Some of these plots were even flipped over the next day at millions of dollars in profits, while 50,000 persons are awaiting house lots. No house lots was even given to the poor, displaced diamond sugar workers. Remember, those were diamond sugar estate lands. Do you want to hear more? I'll pause there to just outline some of the deals under the APNU administration. Compromising billions of dollars, US dollars, in oil and gas contract negotiations by accepting terms disadvantageous to Guyana and Guyanese, billions of dollars. Remember, one of the contract to Exxon with only 18 million US dollars coming into our treasury as a signing bonus, which they didn't know which part of the world it was. Finally, they found it. And Exxon turned around and divest 55% of that to other oil companies and collect billions. Could it be? Nothing, no investment, nothing at all. APNU administration. The controversial Durban Park project that cost over $1 billion with nothing, very little to show. Renting a warehouse for $12 million per month that was purchased by from a connected person who paid $48 million for the property. So 4 months he already paid back because of the rent. A caretaker government signing contracts for schools of close to $1 billion with connected persons 2 months before 2020 elections, allegedly to finance campaign. Leasing of state lands to connected persons under opaque deals. And I can go on and on. Party politics of division under successive PPP and APNU PNC administrations have displayed no regard for the plight of Guyanese masses. In the face of multiple promises, the very day after the inauguration, the tale of corruption, disregard for transparency, accountability, and good governance began to take shape. The claim of honesty, good life, and vision on the campaign trail is a stark contrast to the record in government. The same old promises are being trumpeted again, described as decade of development. Give us another chance by APNU. And PPP, we are better at spending oil money. Who will believe that? Who will believe that the PPP administration is better at spending oil money after all that I've cited here? The billions and billions lost through corruption by those in public office tells the real story. Both PPP and APNU cannot be trusted and ought to be sent packing. Just imagine where our country could have been today if we had insisted on accountability by our governments when we cast our votes. Why do we elect corrupt, incompetent people to office whose only motive is their personal gain and our loss? Why do we wave their flags and dance to the tune of racially divisive politics and politicians who have done nothing for themselves before political life, but are saying how much they can do for us when they have done nothing in the past? Why do we allow career politicians to levy high taxes on us to cover their incompetence, mismanagement, and wastage of our hard-earned income. Why do we envy? Why do Guyanese envy others from other countries when they travel for what they can afford to spend, but then elect visionless, incompetent, corrupt, and dishonest political parties? Why do some of us vote corrupt leaders of the PPP and APNU to keep the rest of us in this midst, and the next day we migrate to higher ground? Are we just self-destructive? Why do we vote as though we hate our country, hate our family, hate our children? Let's stop that impasse now and make a decision to vote Change Guyana. Guyanese are some of the most hardworking people, fun-loving, innovative, and adaptable around the world. But yet we give the two most ethnically divisive political parties on the planet control over our lives and our children's future. Why? Will we be doing this again? Will we continue to wave the flags of the cup or the palm tree? Hopefully, not again. The billions lost through corruption, wastage, and mismanagement could have taken us much further, and I'll outline some of the things that it could have done. It could have built 5 bridges across the Demerara, Essequibo, and Berbice rivers. Imagine that. Now, 53 years after, we can't build the bridge yet. And every election, we make the same promise. We're going to build the bridge in 2 years. One of them I heard saying. It could have built networks of roads and highways across our country to Bartica, highway to the airport, to the interland regions. Could have built state-of-the-art hospitals in every region. Could have built economic zones across Guyana with thousands of high-paying jobs and curb endless migration from our shores. It could have supported massive agricultural and industrial development, build a smart grid for GPL and end blackouts, remove the extortionary level of taxation and VAT. Everyone in this country could have been able to afford a new car and a middle-income home. We could have tripled the old age pension from the pittance of $20,000 that is being given currently. Corruption by those in authority constitutes abuse of public office. In my mind, the poverty it brings represents a crime against humanity. It should therefore be confronted head-on. Racial division and ethnic voting support corruption, erode democracy, and keep us poor. Even though the evidence of the above are overwhelming, none of the cases mentioned above was ever investigated. No one was ever held accountable. No doubt, again, it's business as usual. In other countries, presidents and public officials are imprisoned for a fraction of any of the above. Why not here? Solutions, Change Guyana solutions. We will pass legislation making public officials accountable, real accountability this time. New legislation will impose severe consequences for not only the takers of a bribe, but the givers as well, including jail sentences. Contractors convicted of bribery will be banned from life from participation in any bidding process. A special corruption court will be implemented to expedite such cases. Enhancing the capacity of the Integrity Commission to investigate every case of corrupt act and enforce prosecution. We'll create the Office of the Contractor General with responsibility for post-review of all public contracts to ensure performance and value to the taxpayer. Making abuse of public office an offense. And I've had a lot of abuse of public office over the last 20 years doing business here. We will make abuse of public office an offense so that no president, no public official can abuse his office that cause injury or losses to anyone. Lifting everyone through broad-based investments and development. We foresee economic development help to curb corruption because the incentive for corruption is diminished when everyone have a job. Jobs with better pay, balanced developments in all regions to uplift rural communities. Better pay for police, teachers, and nurses. When we curb the corruption, we can afford billions of dollars to pay police, nurses, teachers more. We can elevate the pension to people who have served in the past in retirement. We can triple that. And it's our intention to double that. And we can show you how we can do it. We will reduce the extortionary level of taxation that facilitates corruption. High taxes facilitates, encourages corruption. We will improve good governance, transparency, and accountability at all levels through a smart government, what I call a smart government, a government campus powered by information technology, including artificial intelligence, to cut transaction costs, enhance the efficiency of delivery of service to the population, and real-time accessibility all across Guyana. This will promote transparency and accessibility to information, and which will lead to better accountability. We will have a commission on citizens' rights to ensure equal opportunities for all, and also ensure that nobody is marginalized, discriminated against by virtue of their race, religion, ethnicity, gender, or otherwise. These are all measures to deal with corruption. One wonder why it hasn't been done as yet. It seems so simple to me. Imagine one legal practitioner. I mentioned no investigation, no penalty, no consequences for corruption, so corruption will continue. The cycle of high taxes, making life difficult, facilitate the corruption, undermine the independence of the civil service and all democratic institutions that are supposed to protect us and prevent the corruption. But because of the political domination by these two political parties, all the social problems that we have in Guyana today, including poor medical care, the corruption is the root of it. And to date, no investigation and no imprisonment. Imagine one legal practitioner, after 10 years of law practice, couldn't buy a home. But after 4 years of being a minister under the PPP government, owned 4 properties in top residential Georgetown. Imagine that. And imagine the parallel of a minister under APNU, having a sprawling home after less than 5 years in office, when that minister couldn't afford a home before. It is your money. Your money is at stake there. The evidence is staring us in the face, yet no investigation, no conviction, even no dismissal. And remember the case about the drugs warehouse rented for $12 million. All that APNO did was to transfer the minister, move him from there. That's all. Give him a bigger portfolio. You know, there are incentives for corruption in both parties that we elect and which we are going to elect again. Where was President Granger then? The endless cry for justice is being greeted by a deafening silence by those who seek your vote. The culture of corruption continues, even on the campaign trail. While saying no corruption, a decade of development, we are the best to spend oil money, the corruption continues even on the campaign trail. The billions being splashed on big, expensive rallies with soca music and high wine, I was told, around the country shows clearly the culture of corrupt practices on both sides, from top to bottom. Make no bones about it, but just wait after the election. Guyana has been sold out to big contractors, foreign and local. Just imagine the payback after the elections are over. It is time. It is time to open our minds and say enough is enough. Not this time again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.